שלום כיתה, אנחנו ממשיכות בסדר בגדים. כבר ראינו את המלאכות של כותב, מוחק, בונה וסותר. אנחנו ממשיכים עם עוד זוג של היפוכים. אנחנו מדברים עכשיו על אש, מכבה ומבעיר. Okay? These come a little bit out of order. They might seem out of the ordinary, but bear with me. Mechabeh מדבר על הסרת אש, removing of a fire, או באנגלית extinguishing. המסלק את האש לצורך עץ חרוך. Why did they extinguish? Why was that a separate part of the מלאכות? אז כדי לעשות אש גדול ולעשות אש באופן יותר קל, הם היו צריכים לעשות ראשון עץ חרוך, charred or burnt wood. It's very similar to coal, which is kind of like burnt rocks. Okay, why do we use coal to light a fire? Or why is it easier to light a fire in a fireplace that's already been lit, or to use logs that have already been lit in a previous fire, let's say in a fire pit? בגלל שאחרי שהאש כבר מבעיר, where it burns the log the first time, it dries it out, it removes all of the moisture, it removes any barrier between the fire and the wood. And so in order to light a better and bigger fire, you want to use עץ שכבר היה באש. You want to use already burnt wood. So how do you make burnt wood? Well, you light a fire on the wood and then you extinguish it. And now you have burnt wood so that when you need to make a fire, you have this already. So it sounds a little bit funny, בגלל שהם היו צריכים לעשות את האש לפני שהם קבעו את האש, but this is the way that we are setting it up in the מלאכות. We're saying that הם היו צריכים לכבה את האש כדי לעשות העצים, כדי להבעיר אש מחדש. In order so that when they're ready, they would be able to build a big fire. Okay, so over here we have an example.
So I have a quick tip for you today. I'm going to show you how to light a fire with a piece of burnt wood from someone else's previous fire and your magnifying glass. You want to see how I do it? Stay tuned. Okay, before we get started, just a few tips. One is have your fire materials ready and have them all laid out nearby. It's going to have to be, obviously a sunny day. You're not going to be able to do much without sunshine.
Okay, so he puts down his burnt wood, and there were many ways where they can get a spark. Here he used a magnifying glass to direct the sunlight onto the wood. He's now using oxygen to ignite that flame. And we see that he was able to make a fire using the burnt wood. So, מכבה, עוד פעם זה לסלק אש לצורך עץ חרוך. So again, this destructive מלאכה was not done just to finish and close up the fire, but it was performed כדי לבנות אש חדש. Okay? כשל המשכן, there were two. One, כדי לחמם את הצבעים בשביל היריעות. So we saw when it came to אופה, that in order to change the lechem from just an isa, a dough, to actually bread, you needed to use heat. So in this case, the tziva'im, the different dyes, were ground together and then mixed in boiling water in order to create a liquid dye like we saw in Sidura de Pat. In order to boil them, they needed fire, and in order to get fire, they needed to have the burnt wood, which is why this is part of Mechabeh. And the second keshet is להמס מתכות של המשכן, to melt מתכות or metals for the משכן. אנחנו יודעים שבמשכן הם השתמשו בזהב וכסף ונחושת כדי לעשות את כל הכלים שונים. אז כדי להשתמש במתכות הם היו צריכים להמס אותם, to melt them in order to mold them better and to make them into liquid and, let's say, dip your kelim that were made of wood into the gold. Okay, so these are going to be part of the melachot relating to fire. Halacha lema'aseh. Asur lechabot esh im mayim or avir. So again, this is a bad picture. Obviously, if it is pikuach nefesh, you're allowed to use an extinguisher to extinguish a fire. Aval po, ze ulai dugma k'tzat yoter tov. You can't blow out candles. Why would you light a candle on Shabbat? You wouldn't light a candle on Shabbat. It's just a dugma. You cannot blow out a candle or remove a fire on Shabbat. Perhaps here's a better one. Asur lehorid et hagez batanur. Nagid sheyesh mishu shemash'ir et ha'esh batanur lekol haShabbat. Asur lehorid et zeh. So, Mechabeh doesn't only refer to completely removing the fire, but it also refers to lowering the fire. So over here, a person would not be allowed to lower the flame on an oven on Shabbat. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have, this should say Mavir, so I'm going to change that. Okay, מצוין. פה יש לנו את המלאכה של מבעיר. אם אתן מסתכלות, אתן תראו את המילה בוער, לבער, ביעור חמץ. בתוך המילה מבעיר. מבעיר מדבר על הצתת אור או קיומו, which means either to ignite a fire, להתחיל אש מחדש, או להמשיך אש, to keep a fire going. So let's say from before Shabbat, you have a fire pit in your backyard, and you want it to last. So you would typically go and get a piece of wood and throw it in. But even though this is not starting a new fire, it's also asur on Shabbat, because you're allowing it to continue. Okay? הקשר למשכן היא אותו דבר שראינו במחבר, כדי לחמם את הצבעים בשביל היריעות ולהמס מתכות של המשכן. הלכה למעשה, אסור להוסיף עץ לאש. You can't go adding any more flames to a fire, any more logs to a fire, sorry. ואסור להדליק גפרור. You cannot strike a match on Shabbat because that is starting a fire. ואסור לנשוף על האש. So as we saw in the previous video, blowing on ash can either blow it out or it can actually make the fire bigger. This is depending on whether you're blowing out oxygen or carbon dioxide. If you have a breath that's really fast, you can actually blow back out oxygen, which will allow the fire to become bigger. But if you're blowing out in a different way and you allow carbon dioxide out, that's what would extinguish the fire. But anyway, all of these are asur b'Shabbat. Okay? So this is Mavir, the opposite of Mechabeh shekvar ra'inu. Okay, let's continue. Makeh BePatish. Makeh BePatish is very interesting. It speaks about the final and finishing touch that was performed in the completion of the Mishkan. So it's described as the final hammer blow. Makeh literally means to hit. Patish is a hammer. The final hit or blow of the hammer onto the pillars of the Mishkan. Now, כבר דיברנו על זה שכל קרש של המשכן היא הייתה עשויה מעץ. It was made of wood, ואז הם שמו מעליו קלף של כסף, a very thin sheet of gold. I'll attach a video in our Google Classroom to show you how to make gold leaf, flat gold leaf. It's really cool. But they would wrap each pillar in this flat gold leaf, and in order to secure it to the pillar, they would hit it with a nail. They would hit the pillar with a nail in order to secure that gold leaf around the pillar. And this last and final blow was considered like the finishing touch of the pillar. So, כל עבודות גמר ושיפוץ של כלי לצורך השלמתו. שעשו בהכאת פטיש, it says here. So any action that was necessary in order to complete or to finish improving or renovating an object. So in the Mishkan, it specifically had to do with using a hammer, but we're going to see some examples that don't have to do with a hammer. Now, a toleda, or a baby mel'acha that comes out of here, is called mitzaken mana. So for some reason I don't have it written out here. אבל אני אסביר. מתקן מנה זה לקחת דבר, לקחת כלי, ולהפוך אותו מלהיות משהו שלא יכול להשתמש בו, למשהו שיכול להשתמש בו. So that means taking an object and making it from unusable to usable. So this can include many different actions that are not on their own necessarily asur v'shabbat. For example, if I have a keli, I have a plate, and I want to use it for Shabbat, aval asur bigla shelo tabalti et ze betoch hamikveh. I didn't yet dip the plate in the mikveh, which is something that we do in order to establish that this plate is legally mine according to halacha. Can I go on Shabbat and dip my plate in the mikveh in order so that I can use it for Shabbat? And the answer is no. Because this finishing touch would turn this plate from unusable to usable. And so that's asur. The Kesher Mishkan here is that kol krash haya mechuseh b'zahav. Every pillar was covered in gold. They would hit a golden nail onto the krash in order to secure the zahav to it. So some halacha lema'aseh, you're not allowed to put laces in your shoes. So if you know when you get a new pair of sneakers or shoes, they come without laces, which make them unusable. You really can't walk around in shoes without laces. Once you put the laces in the shoes, they become usable. This is a problem of metaken mana. We have another one, asur lechaded iparon, you're not allowed to sharpen a pencil. Of course, now we know that a pencil is mukseh and it's asur legamre, but here the idea is that taking a pencil from flat and then sharpening it would now make it from unusable to usable. I have one more example here. Asur leftoach tefarim mikiseh beged chadash. So you know how men, they have suit pockets. Sometimes a woman will have a jacket pocket where the pocket is sewed closed. And in order to open it, you have to kind of tear the pocket open. And that would probably also be a problem of Hotsaah because you would be pulling apart the fabric. But the idea here is that this is a metaken mana action. This is an action that's going to turn it from a sewed pocket, which you can't use, to an open pocket. I'll just give you one more example off the top of my head. Let's say you're wearing a watch, not an electrical watch, a mechanical watch, and you see that it's set to the wrong time. You might want to just pop open that little button on the side and spin it to the correct time and close it. You wouldn't be violating anything in terms of electricity or something like that, but it would be a problem of mitaken mana. So this was Makeh BePatish. Sof sof higanu lemelacha achrona shehi Hotsaah. Hotsaah means transferring or carrying. The official definition lehotzim mireshut lereshut, to take from one type of property to another type of property, generally means to take something from public property to private property, or from private property to public property. So for example, taking something from your porch out to the street, or picking something up in the street and bringing it back inside your house. These are examples of Hotsaah, of taking something from one type of property to another. Of course, mutad letaltel, to carry within your own home, because that's all considered one property. So over here is where we gotta get a lot of questions about walking around in hotels and pool areas and things like that. So each scenario would be very different in those cases, but this is what we would have to keep in mind. Okay, keshen hamishkan, כדי לנסוע את המשכן, הלוויים שמו אותה בעגלה, שזה רשות היחיד, והביא אותה, that's a typo, למקום אחר במדבר, שזה רשות הרבים. So they would carry the mishkan pieces in a giant wagon, from which the giant wagon itself was the private property, and then they would carry it in the midbar and place it in public property, which was asur. So for us, asur lidchof agala b'makom she'en eruv. So I'll explain about the eruv quickly. The eruv is basically either a set of strings and poles, or it's just a natural structure that's occurring that basically takes a whole public area and encloses it to make it all private. So once this whole area is considered private, there's no problem carrying within it. Not every Rav goes by the eruv, so some of you might and some of you might not. But in general, asur lidchof agala b'makom she'en eruv, asur lehavi sidur mibet knesset labayit. These are just small examples, but the general idea is that we are asur to bring something from a public property to private property, or hahefech, where there is no eruv.